There's been this trend going on for a while now where companies re-release retro game cartridges officially, right? You know, they get the licensing and whatnot. Retrobit's a company that's been doing it for a little while. And I've been a fan for the most part. I think they do a decent job with pricing, the extras that it comes with, and the actual game selection that they wind up putting up for sale. Games that are not really common or easy to come by if you're a physical collector. Stuff that was never available before, new translations, stuff like that, right? Like unique. There's a uniqueness to it. And I'm a fan of that. I think that's pretty cool. But understandably, it's not for everyone. Some people who are into collecting retro games, they want the original. Like Nintendo, for example, if the game board and everything wasn't manufactured by Nintendo, it holds no value to them. Doesn't matter if it's an official repro or not. And that's understandable, and I quite get that, you know what I mean? But some companies that have been doing this, it just doesn't make sense, right? Like, I am 8-bit. I'm looking straight at you with the pricing on these things. I have a hard time understanding how these things have sold out with these guys. We've talked about them before, but as far as uniqueness goes, like none of these games are really that expensive if you wanted to buy them in their original form. I understand licensing, the packaging, all this stuff. There's a cost behind it, but I think this is ridiculous. Earthworm Jim 1 and 2, for example, $135. Like, holy crap. And it's manufactured by Retrotainment Games and Infinite NES Lives. Like, those were flashable game boards that you could buy and flash the game yourself for a very small fraction of the cost here. But $135 for Earthworm Jim 1 and 2, you could get both of those cartridges for the Super Nintendo, the original cartridges, for like less than $50. Get both of them. So I don't see the value in this kind of stuff. If it's for you, cool, great, but it doesn't make sense to me. Now, there's another company that started getting into this, Atari, right? With the Atari 2600, they did a few of them, like Saboteur, Yar's Revenge, and Aquaventure, right? Those were the first ones that they put out, and they haven't even shipped them yet, right? I remember talking to these guys. They were supposed to ship them last year, and then there's no communication on anything. Then, Q1 of this year, and then that passes. Now it's like, we're shipping them in July. Like, okay. But those initial 3 games that they sold, they were $50 each. For an Atari 2600, game, there was a little bit of uniqueness with those initial Atari XP titles that they were selling. So I could understand the interest behind it for some people. But now this is just going a little too far, in my opinion. Atari XP and Limited Run Games, they're both selling this new set of limited edition, which I don't really get. Limited edition. So what they did with this new drop, instead of selling the game for $50, they doubled the price, and they gave you like a patch and a pin. Like, for real? $100, and this is what you get. Missile Command, a common-ass game, right? Why did the price increase from the first drop that they did? That's what I don't understand. Now, Atari, the brand is definitely hugely recognizable. The Atari 2600 was the first video game console I ever owned, and, that is the first video game system I played, obviously. And at the time, I loved it, but it's one console I have a very hard time going back to. And I've mentioned this plenty of times. There's nostalgia as far as the brand goes, but wanting to revisit those games, they don't hold up as much, in my opinion, to this day. I very rarely want to revisit an Atari 2600 title. And for people who are deep into it, I know plenty of people who really love to collect Atari. Cartridges aren't that expensive, you know what I mean? If you wanted Missile Command, you'd probably find it for a few bucks. I remember buying an Atari 2600 like a couple years back off of like OfferUp or Craigslist or some shit. A big box with a 2600, like 6 different controllers and like 50 games, and I gave the guy $40. You know what I mean? Missile Command, everything was in there. The games, like, people can't get rid of those things. Is essentially what it is. You know what I mean? So at $100, like, why is Atari bumping up this price, right? It's just kind of crazy. So they have listed on their website the same thing as well at $100. Either order it through Atari XP or Limited Run Games. Premium 50th anniversary, that's they're celebrating with, hey, let's sell, reproductions, of the original games for $100. Like, whatever you do with your money is your business. I don't really care. I'm just talking about how I think this is nuts, and it's just who's buying this shit, right? When you look at the limited run section of these games, says they have 1,000 copies. They're not sold out yet. Like, I don't think anybody's really buying them. So it's kind of funny when you really look at this stuff that they're selling, right? So premium 50th anniversary game box. Yeah, the packaging looks good in these renders. I mean, we're not really seeing real pictures here, right? Newly manufactured cartridge. I believe the old listings used to have it stated in here in the actual listing that these games are designed and manufactured in the USA. It doesn't say that on any of the listings. It does say it in the FAQ. So I don't know if anything's changed with that, if they're sourcing things elsewhere now. But looking at the products that comes with this, really nothing. But it's missing something, right? And we'll get to that in a second if you go back and look at their previous releases. So pre-orders expected to ship in August 2022. I highly doubt that. They still haven't shipped the other ones, right? So tack on a year to that, if not longer. But I found it funny. So they make note that Missile Command was released as a cartridge for the 2681, sold 2.5 million copies. So there's a buttload of them out there, right? You want this special looking cartridge and package, this is the way to get it. But all right, so you get a pin, you get a patch, you get like a little art card thing, a manual, the game, right? But when you go to the previous release, so these were $100. The previous one was $150 for the limited edition, right? I already mentioned the standard one, which was $50, which essentially the limited edition that they're selling now, to me, it seems like a standard edition. Like, there's really not anything crazy going on with it, that pin and patch, all right? But why was this one, why do they justify $50 more for the previous limited edition? So, yeah, okay, the price came down a little bit. I was almost going to be like, well, wow, they doubled the price. But, that limited edition moniker, that's an upcharge. But when you compare, maybe that's why they left these ones up. So you can look, oh, wow, they went down in price, even though these ones are sold out. But these ones came with a tiny bit more, right? So the newly manufactured game, the card stock poster thing, manual, the collector pin, and the polyester blend twill woven embroidered collectible patch. But this also came with a certificate of authenticity that I don't think is listed on the other one. And it shows it in the picture here. It doesn't show it in the picture in the new ones. And a digital copy of the game to play on your Atari VCS, right? So these new ones, maybe they're already part of the Atari collection that you could buy that's on there, but they're not giving you a digital copy, right? They keep changing this. Limited quantities will ship in July, right? Okay. I don't know if anybody's got these yet, but yeah, they kept slipping on that date there. But I just find this crazy. Like, who's buying this stuff? Are you into Atari 2600 games? If you were like looking to collect, is this something that you would want, like, to spend this kind of money? Because for collectors, people who are into the brand, into these games, I'm sure there's interest in these. I know there is. There's always interest. You could take a shit and put it in a box and say it's limited edition. Somebody's going to buy it, dude. But, for an Atari collector, these are games, they're not going to freaking play them. They're going to leave them sealed. They're going to put them on a shelf and stare at them. And that's what they're good for. You know what I mean? Like, you play these games any numerous ways, from compilations to just emulating them very simply and easily to just buying the original cartridge type of thing, right? There's a lot of options. And I just think the pricing just really seems off the mark to me. That's really my only main criticism. I'm not against products being re-released and brought back out, but I think the pricing just it's taken advantage of people who have this tendency to just spend on things like this. You know what I mean? Limited edition, like those buzzwords pop out at you. Gotta grab it. You know what I mean? Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think down below. Bye.